So apparently, I have not actually ever covered a Remnant777 video, and I also found out that apparently this guy also like name searches himself a lot. That's just something that I've heard in the wind. I don't know if that's actually true, but I do want to see where this video is going. He says the psychology of women with septum nose rings. So I am not familiar with septum theory. I am not. Though, if there's a thing I've learned about piercings, like in general, it's that they aren't indicative of jack shit. So, yeah, well, I've poisoned that well. Let's see what he says. Oh, he's doing gameplay as well. Oh, no, never mind.
What is the septum nose ring theory? Well, according to the experts at knowyourmeme.com, it is a way of allegedly spotting feminists, man-haters, and perpetual victims, with the whole thing orbiting around septum piercings or
Nixie-chan, thank you very much for resubscribing. Okay, so we're starting with Know Your Meme? It's you know that memes are effectively jokes, right? Like, I hope we get better sourcing than just Know Your Meme.
Nose rings. Now you know me, I'd never generalize against people as a whole, or say that women with nose rings behave in a particular way. That's not me. However, as we all know, despite only making up 19% of women with piercings, they are responsible for over 75% of TikTok crash outs. Meaning,
Okay, so does anybody catch that right there? Anybody catch that? It's the despite meme, the one that's usually used against black people. You know, despite making up only 13% of the population, black people are responsible for over 50% of the violent crimes, or whatever the fuck the numbers are. It's just that. It's just that meme again. Okay, sure, why not? I guess that's funny.
Tapped into something here, which this whole topic, it's perfect for me to cover because I'm neutral on this subject matter. Because truth be told, I find women with dyed hair and piercings to be hot. I mean, why do you think in my woman tier list video, I put emos and goth girls in A tier? But even though I have an affinity for them, I'm blessed with the wisdom of Solomon to know that they are like beautiful blue.
I'm sincerely hoping that this is hyperbole. Like, nobody is this self-aggrandizing without it being hyperbole. Like, right? Progress only says, I'm neutral, okay. Well, okay, so to give him credit, the way he is sounding, this level of self-aggrandizement only comes from somebody who's either super self-aware or is taking the piss. That's the only thing it can be. Otherwise, it's sad. But I'm 90% certain that it is hyperbole done because it needs to be. Why is there an alpha excadrill and an alpha drill burr? Whomst the fuck? Okay, sure, why not? I don't need either of these.
Poisonous dart frogs. Beautiful to the eyes, but toxic. Which is to say that they're crazy. But why? Well, I'm going to explain that in this video, and on top of that, I will even tell you how to get yourself your very own goth and emo girl that is not insane. I know, it sounds too good to be true, but I will.
Okay, so hold on a minute, hold on. So, what he just did was completely poison the well. He starts out the video by saying, this is a theory that has been described by Know Your Meme. Let's find out if it's true. And then immediately begins by saying, I know this is true. It's okay. Your cart is well before your horse, my guy.
Will deliver, so watch to the end of the video.
But as for why they're crazy, I have a hypothesis, specifically about the septum nose ring. Because hot take, I don't think that all nose rings are indicative of a crazy woman. Because I've met quite a few women who have nose rings, and I don't think that they're insane. Maybe they get it on one side, or they just have one, like you can see on here. I don't think we can generalize all nose ring types like that. But
I feel like you would need some kind of research to even come to a conclusion at this point, but we're not at the conclusion side of things because he already started off by saying that he knew the conclusion. But okay, sure. Let's see what we've got going on here.
The septum nose ring, that takes a very special kind of person to get it. The type of person that says, I don't give a f how other people see me. I want it, so I'm gonna get it. That is their entire mentality.
I feel like that's the mentality behind every body modification. Like you get it I feel like the amount of people that get it for other people is shockingly low, right? I feel like most people who do body modifications of any kind, they do it for them. Now, granted, I don't have data to back that up. I have zero data to back that up. Just several conversations with lots of people who are friends of mine who have body mods, and I have never once heard somebody say, I'm gonna get X thing, like a tattoo or like any kind of piercing or anything like that. I've never heard somebody say they're getting it because they want other people's reaction, or they want other people's, whatever it may be. Reaction is one thing. You want people to see you a certain way. Usually you get something because you think it's cool, and the way that people see you afterwards is a secondary thing, almost superfluous, right? Even if you did get it so that other people would see you differently, why would that be a good or bad thing? I don't think it matters. Not at all. Like, all of us go outside dressed a certain way because we want people to see us a certain way. You go to a business dressed in a suit because you want to be taken more seriously when you do the job interview. Like, this is a normal thing that happens in a social society. People want to be viewed a certain way by the people around them, so we take measures to do so. Again, with permanent body mods, I don't think that that's usually the case. You get them for you because you're the one that has to wake up with them. But, I don't know, this feels like a nothing burger for the purpose of getting a whole bunch of people who feel like they've been completely disenfranchised from the dating pool to click on his video. I don't know.
In fact, the more pushback that they get, the more that they want to do it. And there are a couple of traits that become immediately apparent. One, the lack of impulse control. They act on their emotions much more without self-restraint. And
Liz Chris, thank you very much for 1,100 bits. I appreciate it greatly. That said, people who have body modifications, are you sure that it's impulse control? Because, like, I know that you're specifically saying that this is, women with nose rings. So we're at specifically women and specifically women who have nose rings. But I'm just curious, did you do any research to come up with the impulse control angle? Do you have any sourcing on that? Anything like that? Or is this just, like, all vibes based? Because if it's just vibes based, then this is a useless video made for the sole purpose of throwing my feels on the internet.
they also don't care how other people view them. Their whole mentality is, I want it, and I don't care how you view me about it. In fact,
again, why would it matter how somebody views you about it? It's your body. Why should you care about how other people view it? Like, obviously have a modicum of self-respect. Don't go outside in a crop top when you weigh like 400 pounds. Just, there are things that you can do to make yourself look more attractive if you so choose. But if you don't care, who cares? Do whatever you want.
in fact, if you view me poorly because of this superficial thing, that's good. I don't want you in my life. I repelled you off. I'm repelling off the bad people with this nose ring. I'm ridding myself of the superficial people in my life.
Do you think that there actually are people out there, realistically, who get body modifications solely for the purpose of, like, active camouflage against conservatives? Because if there are, then that is metagaming life in a way that I find way more respectable than I could have ever thought.
That's how they view themselves. And from all of this, you get a strong whiff of rebellion. A rebellion against the people in their lives that try to force them to conform. And they're also rebellious against the more dominant culture, which is one of the reasons why they're left-wing. Because for a lot of these people, they haven't come to their beliefs because they've deeply thought about it. But rather, a lot of their beliefs are simply a negative reaction to the dominant culture.
Okay, so you do realize that if somebody comes to their belief because the dominant culture around them has produced something that they disagree with, then that is a form of coming to your belief completely normally. Like, that is a normal way people come to their beliefs. Somebody becomes an anti-capitalist. Why? Because they live in a world where capitalism has hurt them. Somebody becomes an anti-communist. Why? Because they live in a world where they were educated against communism, whether or not that education was legitimate doesn't matter. They got it either from propaganda or from somebody who wanted to have that be the reaction from any kid. I remember that being what I got when I was a kid in school. Like, the idea of communism being a stateless, classless, moneyless society wasn't ever described to me. It was, and I quote, you get the same amount of money for working at McDonald's as you do for being a brain surgeon. And that pissed me off because I was also sold the lie of America being a meritocracy. Like, we all come to our beliefs as a result of the environment around us informing those beliefs. I don't think that that's a good or a bad thing. It's just a neutral thing. It is one of the ways people come to their beliefs. Quite literally, not everybody has the time to research every belief that they have. This is something that conservatives take a lot of advantage of as well. Because since people can't always take the time to research their beliefs, if they hear some very convincing propaganda, they're just going to end up going with the vibes-based conclusion that Jesse Waters or somebody ended up having that day because it sounded right and like vaguely populist when they heard it. Bagosi said there's meritocracy and then there's a meritocracy. But no, I think that saying like, and actually these women don't come to this belief system normally, I feel like they come to the belief system about the same way that everybody else fucking does. There's not much unique here, but okay.
They are products of their environment.
We are all products of our environment. Your education is part of your environment. Your income is part of your environment. Everything that is around you that you don't have full control over is your environment.
And you have two choices as a product of your environment. Conform to the culture or rebel against it. Both are reactions to your environment. I mean, why do you think
that's
so
how
many of
human
these people
beings
that look
work.
like
What the
this
fuck?
have daddy issues? They're rebelling against their right-wing Christian parents. I mean,
Are we just assuming that every single person who has a piercing has, or at least a septum piercing, has a bad situation with their parents? Like, is that really the take we're going for? Because, like, I'm sure maybe there is some correlation there, but correlation doesn't mean jack all. You need causation in order to come to a conclusion, and I haven't heard anything that I would find convincing as a causative link so far. Also, I'm just curious, is there, like, any... There's no sourcing, no nothing in here? Nothing at all? It's just vague, I feel this way? This feels like a very vibes-based video.
you think it's a coincidence? No, it's because they wanted to oppose their parents as an expression, a statement to the world that they have free will and they have autonomy over their own lives.
Okay, yeah, kids do that a lot. As you become an adult for one reason or another, you decide that your own beliefs should take precedent over the beliefs of your parents or your forebears in whatever method that came to be. And okay, cool. Like, what is that? How does that get us to mentally unstable? How does that get us to insanity?
This shows that they're not simply a product of their own environment. Yet ironically, the very rebellion itself is a product of their environment. They're blindly reacting to things outside of their own control.
Are you... Okay, so you and I both agree that the environment is a thing that is, you generally speaking, outside of the control of the people who are experiencing these things. But what I don't think we agree on, what I don't think that you and I can agree on here, is that the reaction to get the septum piercing is a blind reaction. Not every reaction to an environment outside of your control is a blind reaction. I like how he begins the video saying, I'm not one to generalize, but allow me to produce a video where the only thing I can do throughout the entire thing is generalize.
And because of this, they tend to be less self-aware than most people around them. The more that they view themselves as agents of free will, the less self-aware they generally are. But going back...
Are you, okay, so real talk, is that mental instability? Is that daddy issues? Or is that just autism? Because right now you're just You're not describing mental instability, you're describing neurodivergence. That's what I'm hearing right now. I'm hearing you describe symptoms of the tism. And I understand all of us hopped on the Tylenol train at one point or another if we got a diagnosis, but again, how does that lead to the mental instability hypothesis? How does that lead to the daddy issues hypothesis?
Back to the septum nose ring. The reason why there's this stereotype of these unstable feminists with nose rings, they're crashing out online. It's because there's a combination of traits we're seeing.
No. You're a YouTuber. You actually understand this better than most, and you've decided to deliberately obfuscate why there's a trend of that. So, trends don't happen in a vacuum. Trends don't actually happen on the internet organically. Now, once upon a time, they did. Viral trends would happen where somebody would say a thing, and then another person would say, wow, that was really cool. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to try to go viral. That's not how virality works anymore. So algorithms decide that things get more watch time, and therefore those things will get more spotlight. And then you start seeing what you think is a trend or an emergence of patterns. Now, it may be that in the greater ecosystem of TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Reels, Instagrams, whatever the fucks, in the greater scheme of things on those platforms, there is not actually a higher preponderance of septum ring wearing women crash outs, but your feed will show you more of them if that is what you want to see. Or rather, if it's a thing that you commented on or engaged with in any way, liked, or you just happen to watch it for a few more seconds than other videos. When you have a, quote, viral sensation in the modern era, it's because somebody watched it more than somebody else, or people in general watch something more often than normal, and the algorithm decided to start showing more of that. So if we go back to old school virality, think the crash out of, Leave Britney Alone. Right? Everybody should remember the Leave Britney Alone crash out. That's like 20 years ago internet at this point, effectively. Maybe not fully 20. Yeah, no, about 20 years ago internet. That's about 20 years ago internet. What we did not see back then was a fuck ton of copycats doing the Leave Britney Alone thing. We saw people making fun of it. We saw people referencing it. That's what we saw. But we did not see a bunch of copycats. But nowadays, we would. Nowadays, if a Leave Britney Alone happens, you're going to get 10 copycats, 20 copycats, 30 copycats. And it's not that there weren't more or less crash outs in either of these scenarios. It's that an algorithm sees that that behavior got likes, got clicks, and the advertising dollars are better when people are engaging. This is why rage baiting works so well on the internet. So you don't have organic virality anymore. You have an algorithm trying to find things that are like the thing you watched and direct you to more of those things. That's what you have in the modern era. Now, there may have been an equal number of think pieces from people on the internet crashing out about Britney Spears, but the one that caught virality on the old school internet was the Leave Britney Alone video. In the modern era, you would be seeing all of the copycat videos in a way that you do not see on old era internet. Old era memes were not, let's flash in the pan one thing and then get a bunch of copycats on it until people get burnt out of saying 6, 7, and then move on to the next thing. You got memes that solidified themselves in culture for like a year or 3. Really, really powerfully, but they were single-shot videos. That's where you get, the Britney crash out, you get Chocolate Rain, you get the original troll faces before we moved on to the current soy jack method of showing people that we're better than them. I think as a content creator, Remnant, you understand this. You understand how new virality should work. And because you understand this, then you should know that you can't just see, oh, well, I'm getting a lot of this, or a couple of people have reported to me that they're getting a lot of this in their feeds, because that's not actually real raw data anymore. That's data that was artificially dredged up by an algorithm that saw people reacting to something. And woman has crash out, especially woman who's like in a niche alt getup that people find attractive or fetishize. That type of person having a crash out is gonna have people talking a lot. And that causes people to watch the copycat videos, which then, of course, causes more of those videos to be shown by the algorithm. But you don't necessarily get a trend of that the same way that you would without the algorithm helping out. All you have at that point is a bunch of data and a need to analyze it. So what would your next step be to actually establish a trend? Well, you would actually need to be seeing how many more of these videos exist on the internet right now. You would need to start gathering that kind of data. That's what you would need to start doing in your research. Instead, what I'm gonna assume happened, because we don't have any methodology, we have nothing that would lead me to believe there was a method at all to this other than vibes and feels. Instead, we have a conclusion that I think is true. Let me go find videos that support that conclusion. And then this other weird thing happens, where when you're looking for videos to support that conclusion, your algorithm's gonna start finding you more of those. I'll give you an example of something that happened to me. Facebook's Reels started showing me fat people in restaurants and having the floor fall out from under them. Obviously, these were AI-generated videos from like Sawara and shit, but the video would pop up on my feed. I'd watch it once and go, I think that's AI. That has to be. There's no way that's a real thing that happened, but I've seen weird things on the internet. I grew up in the era of fucking break.com. So then I'd watch the video a couple times to see where the AI-generated bit came from. And I'm not going to go into the comment section to find it usually, because that's boring. It becomes a game to me. But then the algorithm goes, oh, you must like watching fat-phobic content on YouTube, or in this case on Facebook. So then it starts showing me AI-generated videos of fat people crashing out at buffets. Obviously none of it's fucking real, but the algorithm saw me look at an AI-generated video, so it thinks I like AI-generated videos, and it happened to show a fat person, so it thinks that that's what I want to see a fuck ton of afterwards. That's how algorithms work. It doesn't mean that there's actually a generalized larger trend of fat-phobic videos on the internet more so than there were 10 hours ago, but the algorithm decided that it needed to show that because it was getting a reaction. And when you start getting a reaction, people watch advertisements more. People stick around on the platforms more. The attention span is the economy now.
More likely to be impulsive, they don't care how other people view them, and they rebel against the people around them and society at large. Meaning, when they're unhappy, they're angry about something, they don't care to hide it. They're much more likely to show it, they're more likely to have a public outburst. If they feel like screaming or doing whatever they want, they will, because they don't care about you or the people around them. If they have a public freakout, it's only bad if you care about how other people view you, especially if you post it online. They'll scream and lose their minds if they believe it gets them what they want.
Or alternatively, we get addicted to social media and engagement. So remember that even Facebook had to have a whole set of files come out where their lawyers and people behind the website had to explain that their website causes active harm to users. And they know it. They know for a fact their website does it because it wants people engaged. And what gets people engaged more than being angry? Anger is engagement to the greatest degree that you possibly can have. And when you have people engaged, angry, and fighting, the platform is thriving. So you seek that anger and that engagement in as many ways as you possibly can. Likewise, we live in a society where people value views over anything. We value ways to monetize our time over anything. It's a huge part of society right now to its fucking detriment. So do you have people who are making these videos that get a bunch of reactions from people that could translate directly to dollars because they have no control over their life and they're actually like crashing out because they hate daddy? Or do you have people who are playing the same algorithm game as all of us? They're just doing it differently. Or do you have people who are being victims of the algorithm game, like what I described earlier? Could be one, could be both, but unlike Remnant, I'm not going to hang my hat on any one explanation, because I have no way of knowing, without doing further research, what the explanation is. And honestly, I don't care so much, but I do find when somebody is super, super confident about their opinion on the internet, and they have a big platform, and the thing they are saying is wrong, we don't have a very good barometer as people for figuring out that that person is full of shit. Our barometer is almost all based on confidence and vibes. This is why used car salesmen can be as successful as they can be. This is why politicians can be as successful as they can be. Because they don't have to actually do the research, they just have to sound confident when they say the things that they do. And to his credit, and I will give... What just hit me? It has ads? The motherfucker has ads? Anyway... All right, let's try that again. Let's try that again. To Remnant's credit, and I will give you credit here, Remnant, I believe that you have a very, very charismatic cadence. I have not seen that many of your videos. I don't fucking care for your content, but you have a charismatic cadence. You can get people to listen to what you want to say. And that is an incredibly useful skill for a con man. It's why you can get so many YouTubers who are actually pieces of shit. Terran Ambassador says this game has ads. What the fuck? No, ads in a fucking RPG means extra enemies that spawn that you have to kill to survive an encounter. I didn't realize that the mega Pokemon in this game had ads. It's spooky. That's spooky information for me to know. Let's try that again. Yeah, ads, not ads.
And that's my thoughts on the septum nose ring theory. Is it valid? I think there's a lot of truth to it. And I think this is why they act in this way. And that's it. Awesome.
Okay, and so what he's doing right there is hedging his bets. So the trick with the Mott and Bailey, because this is the Mott and Bailey thing. The trick with the Mott and Bailey is that you give somebody an undefensible, stupid position in the beginning. And that is this is true and allow me to prove it shit from the beginning of the video. The Bailey is the more easily defensible position that you can retreat to afterwards. And that is is it true? Well, I think it has some truth to it. Okay, well, some truth that's dumb. We can't make any judgment calls off of some truth to it. There's some truth to the fact that black people tend to do more violent crime in the United States. But if we are only using the definition of crime as reported crime, which is what we are usually doing when we do that, and we are accepting the fact that black neighborhoods are going to be more over-policed, then suddenly you can say, hey, this is a thing that happens more, but I have to ignore a shit ton of information to come to any real conclusion from that. Because people committing more crime doesn't mean a whole lot when we're only talking about reported crimes, and we're only talking about crimes, or only talking about places that are going to have more reporting naturally because there are more people reporting in those places. Like, the data starts to become muddied to the point of being effectively useless when you start factoring all of that in. But because Remnant gets to hedge his bets after the Mott and Bailey, start with the indefensible position of this is true, and go into the far more defensible position of there is some truth to this. The super defensible position makes his entire position seem very, very strong, very powerful, very reasonable, very nuanced. But the information throughout the video is anything but that. And if this is the standard for most of the content that he has on his channel, then that's kind of a terrible standard. Don't do the Mott and Bailey thing where you have the terrible position and then you retreat to an altered, slightly easier to defend version of the position. That's just silly. And you can do better than that. And I think as a content creator who is trying to both inform and entertain, you should be doing better than that. I think you can. I am getting killed by the dude doing a fucking JoJo attack. The Pokemon has a JoJo attack. I'm ending on the Pokemon has a JoJo attack. Jesus. But I do want to hear from y'all. in the comment section below, because like I've given you my opinion on this. It feels like a position in the beginning of the video and then rubber banding to a different position later. I feel like that's a thing that you do when you either don't recognize you're doing it yourself or it's a habit formed from dishonesty. And in either of those situations, I think it's silly. I think we can do better than that. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitta, you know I'm not saying that last part, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.